Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Movement Center. I'm Swami Chetanananda, the founder and director here. This evening, we are commemorating the 51st anniversary of the passing of our Adi Guru, Nityananda. Oh, Nityananda was seeing thousands of people a day like that, and the one thing that he is remembered for saying to those people was, as they came by, was bhavana rakho. Bhavana is a feeling, and rakho is to keep or to hold, actually to place. And what he meant by that was to hold the feeling of devotion and gratitude in your heart. Take the feeling of devotion and gratitude and place it in your heart and keep it there. And for Nityananda, this was the most important thing. And it was the most important thing because holding that feeling of gratitude in our hearts changes our own inner environment. To touch that requires a change in our inner environment, our mind, and holding that feeling in our hearts changes our inner environment, and that change leaks out into our outer environment and changes that too. And it is this experience of inner sweetness, of gratitude and devotion that we hold in our hearts that is the environment in which every blessing can come and take, root in us and in our awareness in our life and bless us with the awareness and the experience of a profound abundance. This was Nityananda's essential teaching. Bhavana rakho. Keep the feeling. In the last days of in the last days of July of 1961, Nityananda became somewhat discouraged, I think. He stopped eating, he withdrew, and for a few weeks he didn't eat anything and he rarely met people. And then, his closest, oldest devotees were worried and they started to come to Ganeshpuri. And in particular, one man who was a civil engineer who had known Nityananda from boyhood, came, and Nityananda accepted his presence in the house, and the man was feeding Nityananda every day. And Nityananda said to him at one point, about probably August 7th, that he was going to leave. And the man said, "Oh, Baba, please don't go." And Nityananda said, if one person with perfect devotion were to come and ask me to stay, I would most certainly stay. Because devotion is the greatest power in the universe. And for such a person who holds perfect devotion in their hearts, even God cannot leave their company without permission. That if such a person comes, then I will certainly stay. He said, "Are you such a person?" that person? And the guy said, oh no, Bob, I'm not that person. I'm not perfect in my devotion. Oh, if it were me, I would have said, yeah, I'm that guy. Go ahead and test me. But, so Nityananda just sat down in his chair, put his feet up, closed his eyes, and left his body. His power was so great that he could completely separate his soul, his energy from his body, and just go whenever he wanted. And he left. That was 51 years ago. And it's very amazing that this profoundly simple person who never asked anybody for anything, never wanted anything, never accumulated anything, whatever was given to him, he had two things. People used to bring a lot of offerings to him. Two things happened to them. He either had them piled up and ignored them, or they were distributed to the Adivasi children in the form of a breakfast program that he established for all these children who locally who were very, very poor, which still goes on today, by the way. Nityananda was this great field of blissful awareness that blessed everyone who came in contact with him. And, you know, his devotees, his disciples, Muktananda in Ganeshpuri, who became very famous in the world, and Rudy, his American disciple, and Janananda, the man who, his disciple who took over that ashram in Kanangad that he built, you know, influenced thousands and thousands and thousands of people. You know, for me personally, Nityananda has always been the guiding light and the bar. Whatever the complexity of any of, you know, my own direct gurus, Nityananda's utter simplicity, you know, has been an inspiration and a guide to me. He, you know, his Samadhi shrine, the place where his body is buried, and in India, a saint like him is buried sitting in full lotus. Their bodies aren't burned. Most people's bodies are cremated in India, but a saint's body is not cremated. It is placed in full lotus and wrapped in a particular fashion with cotton, and then put in the ground, seated up and buried that way. And Nityananda's body is in Ganeshpuri, and it is, for me personally, the most scintillatingly powerful place that I have ever been. There are other powerful places in India, but this place, from a couple of miles away, you can feel it as if you are walking through curtains of energy. It just sparkles with power. And when I have gone there to, which has been like, you know, a lot over the years, you know, I go and sit in the this extraordinary temple that was made there. And very often when I'm sitting there, I will hear Nityananda speak to me directly and give me some personal instruction. His spirit and his power is still alive today in Ganeshpuri. And, you know, as he said right before he died, if you think of me, then I'll be there. Just think of me and I'll come. If you ever need me, think of me and I'll be with you. this is my own personal experience. So, with Nityananda as our inspiration and his simplicity and his commitment to practice as, our guide, let's, take from him the teaching that he has left us. And certainly we can't be like him. I mean, that isn't our life. None of us were orphaned and have, in connection, not connected in any family. None of us were raised in a household like he was. And, none of us have had as our life the ability to just walk off in the woods and stay there forever and not worry about food, clothes, anything. That's not our life. And it's fine that it's not our life. But let's take from his example and holding it in our hearts and minds, let's bring that teaching into our life and rise up to be the finest human being we can possibly be, filled with wisdom and compassion and expressing, as our life, unconditional love. I would finally say that for me personally, I feel it as such a great blessing to be personally connected to such an extraordinary being as Nityananda of Ganeshpuri. And the movement center and the entire community here exists to, honor that blessing and also to share it freely with anyone who is called to it. So, thank you all very much for joining me this evening here to honor this greatest of, expression of human possibility. I think, the most important, meaningful, really the only meaningful thing there is to do in this world is to come to understand the profound abundance that is present in the center of ourselves. And, while there are many different pathways, there's only one end. And whatever pathway it is that you are called to, take it, walk it, really, and grow in it. And in your endeavor, I sincerely wish you well.